Okay, we got nothing.
All right.
I'm still working my way through all of Jim Monroe's Z Machine games.
Okay, cool. So, what do you guys find appealing about these projects that people are throwing up online?
Like, if no one's got anything, like, I'll show you something that's really interested me for a while. So, anyone here at DeviantArt? Oh, and sorry, I'm Ben, by the way. I'm the assistant to this guy.
I guess it should be noted that this panel is very freeform. We're probably going to go on a billion tangents and talk about a billion things. I hope that's okay.
Let's do it.
So, has anyone ever seen this art before? It's one of my favorite pieces that I've ever seen. It's DeviantArt, right? I forget the guy who posted. I've been looking for a while, right? But
I think that was posted by the official.
no, it was actually not a game. It was just an artist originally, right?
Oh, really?
Who came up
I
with
thought
the
that was a
concept.
piece of official art.
No, it did become a piece of official art because what they saw is like, come on, who likes the idea of zombies here?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty universal.
Does anyone think zombies are a little played out now, though?
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, well, you do have that angle, right? But the thing about it, right, is we never see art like this, where, like, what would the kids do in a zombie apocalypse, right? Now, this art got put up about, like, 2 years ago, and when I saw it, I thought, wow, this is awesome, right? And I've basically had it on as my desktop for the longest time, and about, I think it was about 3 months ago, they made a Kickstarter that kicked up, right?
Should be there,
Yeah.
Last tab.
Last tab? No, that's
No,
brilliant.
that's the website.
Okay.
Last tab. Very left.
Okay, there we go.
The one that says zombie.
Zombie Playground, right? So when people saw this art, right, they actually started, like, someone said, hey, that's a really good idea, so let's sit down and actually turn this into, like, a little online play game, right? Now, I think this shows the point really well, right, because it's not as big backer-wise as Double Fine.
Yeah, Double Fine Adventure.
But one of the things about it, right, is like what they did to motivate people, right, is you can see the pledges along the left, right? And one of the things that I thought was really interesting is if you get, I think it's 5,000 or so, right? Yeah, you have to give $5,000. It's ridiculous.
You can put yourself in the game.
Yeah, you
for
get
5,000. And that's what I wanted to bring
What
up.
a Christmas
Did
gift.
anyone do that?
I don't know.
Actually, yeah, they had.
10.
It was.
I don't know if they had backers, but I checked.
They had.
They had the one where you could create a
yeah,
weapon.
5,000. Beat the game
5,000.
member.
Yeah, there was one person who decided to shell out $5,000 to be an NPC in a game that the developers have said that what this money funds, like what this 160,000, that essentially the 167,000 is not the money to fund their full vision of the game. They're using Kickstarter to fund a prototype. So they're going to take that money, and they haven't said how long it's going to take them to develop the game, but essentially they're going to take all that money and they're going to build a working prototype, an online competitive shooter with 2 different characters, and I think they said 5 or 6 weapons. So this type of prototype, it actually isn't something that you normally see, that the public would normally see. Typically, as a journalist, when you go to a trade show or go to like a game developers conference, you'll see those kind of working demos that they'll pull you aside and they'll show you a working prototype of the game that in no way represents the final product. And now Kickstarter not only lets fans fund interesting projects. I'm sure a lot of people who are interested in zombies, you know, said $5, sure, I'll pay $5. You know, like how many people? Like hundreds of people, like thousands. Okay, so if they're only 34, I guess their spread is a little uneven. But you know, people said $5, sure, I'll pay $5 and see if this project comes to fruition. It's just a stepping stone for them. They've developed other games, and they're going to put this prototype out that people who have paid into this fund will be able to play, but they hope to take it further.
Go
ahead.
Like one of the things like that I thought was also interesting too is when they did this, right, is I'm not sure I can pull it up here, right? But what they have is you guys, I'm assuming everyone here knows what a forum is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just say. But they had these forums, right? I don't think I can get it on this one.
They have, yeah.
They have forums.
The resolution's too low. They have forums where you can, even if you haven't donated to the fund, even if you have no financial backing in their project, you can make suggestions. So they have sections where people have outlined different character classes. You know, you've got the fat nerd, you've got the little girl, you've got the athlete, like the little boy with the baseball bat. You've got these like tropes that people are suggesting, and then you've got weapons. So you've got, you know, baseball bat, chainsaw. You've got your basic zombie archetype weapons, but then they've also suggested ones that are specific to the theme. So the developer with Kickstarter not only gets backings from their fans, but they also get unparalleled feedback that during the development process they wouldn't normally see. When you, as a journalist, when you interact with a developer, I went and saw a game that's coming out on the Xbox Live Arcade very soon. I'm not going to say which game it was, but their demo was a piece of shit. The development consoles they had, it's a multiplayer shooter coming out on Xbox Live, and they showed it to me 2 years ago. And they had, it was a room about this size, and they had 8 stations. And they were showing us this game, and the version of the game they showed us was nothing like the final product. In fact, it would crash a lot. And when we came to them with feedback and we said, hey, your game is kind of fun, but there's these issues, they would just say, oh, we're working on it. They wouldn't actually, our feedback didn't mean much to them, and then it turns out that they, redid the whole game internally. Whereas with Kickstarter, it's different. The feedback isn't coming internally within the development group. It's coming from outside. So you, me, Ben, whoever has the deepest pockets, in theory, has the biggest say. At least that's my opinion. What do you guys think about the whole putting your money in before you get a product?
Well, I think it's cool. You can back an idea without having to invest very much in it, but you get to put your voice out there and say these are the things that we like. What interests me about that one is that if they're just doing the prototype this way, what happens if they sell the prototype to a big company and then it gets made by one of the big companies? Now all that indie stuff gets lost, even though it was started this way.
Well, one of the things they've been suggesting too is, this is one area that I think is really open on discussion. I'm sorry to interject.
Yeah, we'll come to you in 1 second.
But one of the things they've suggested right on the forums is, what's it called, that Team Fortress 2? I forget the name.
The free-to-play model?
Free-to-play
microtransactions.
Microtransactions, right? Now, one of the ways, like a lot of online games, right, that you guys are aware is they make you buy little microtransactions. Like, I remember I played this game called APB. It was a terrible game, right? And we got
this guy laughed. It was
fun. Yeah, it was fun for like 2 minutes, right? But it was terrible after that. But I always remembered, like, when I played that game, right? Like, one of the things is, like, I start off with like the basic weapons, right? But some guy who's put in like $50 into it, right, starts with a rocket launcher and pistol versus rocket launcher.
I had that problem with, I can't mention the game name because I'm under NDA. But I'm playing a game on PlayStation 3 right now that's coming out that's a free-to-play game. And they have microtransactions in the store, but it's all like in testing, so you can just buy whatever you want. So I created an account with nothing. And then I was playing against people who bought everything and just dying left and right. You'd like spawn, dead, Your average life is like 16 seconds. And what these companies with the free-to-play model have to consider as well is balancing. And these guys are talking about building a prototype, and a prototype by its very nature is going to be unfinished and therefore may be unbalanced. So, I mean, are people okay with paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for what essentially could be an unbalanced game? And what we're kind of waiting for in the media, what some of my colleagues have written about, is which game on Kickstarter is going to be the first failure? What game is going to raise hundreds of thousands or millions and then not come out? Which game will be the Kickstarter Duke Nukem forever?
Like, what do you guys think? Does anyone here really follow Kickstarter games? Like, have you ever seen...
Or indie games, because a lot of indie games are built from the ground up. They don't necessarily use crowdfunding, but are built and then released on Steam. How many here have a Steam profile? Like everybody in the room. Steam is a great example. Steam features on their front page, if you go to store.steampowered.com, they'll have AAA games, Max Payne or whatever, but you'll have thrown in there $5 games. Did anyone here play The Binding of Isaac?
I haven't played it, but I watched playthroughs.
So 3 people. A great little $5 game. It's good for an evening, and you're supporting an indie developer. It's a good example of a mainstream platform being used to advertise and promote smaller games. Does anybody here use Xbox Live? About after. Does anyone here use the indie games on Xbox Live? Nobody.
No takers.
One.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. But they hide them. This, like Kickstarter, it's taking indie games and putting them to the forefront. If you want to know an interesting idea for a game or what's coming, you can go to Kickstarter, you can click games, and there's like dozens of ideas that they've pre-approved that are interesting. If you go to Xbox, and you go to the games tab, you're going to get an ad for Call of Duty, you're going to get an ad for Battlefield. To find the indie games, to find the stuff that people are making themselves, 2 or 3 people in a garage, you have to dig. So, at least in my opinion, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, services like that remove a lot of the corporate layers.
On that idea as well, I've noticed something as well. When I bought Battlefield 3, I couldn't buy it on Steam, and I had to buy it on Origin.
Exactly.
And I hate Origin.
Platform locking, and that's an issue.
And it doesn't support a lot of indie gaming as well. And I've since stopped playing that game as much, and have stuck to the Steam games that I really appreciate.
And that's another problem is platform locking. Did anybody here play Limbo? Yes. Okay. Limbo, the guys who made Limbo, Playdead Studios, said that essentially, if they had known about Microsoft's platform locking, like their agreement to lock it to Xbox, it's like 36 months, like 3 years, or it was 2 years because it's now on PlayStation, they would have never done it because they realized that through Steam, through an open platform, they can make a lot more money because it exposes a lot more people. I'm pretty sure even on this like laptop where we're, a display not big enough to show a web page, we could probably play something cool, right? So it's like the idea is anyone with a computer and even phones, like iOS. We're jumping around, but it's a big broad topic. iOS is a big one too. I mean, anybody can throw a game on the App Store for 99 cents, and that's a double-edged sword. It's a great thing because you have small games that make it big. I'm trying to think of a big iOS game. Like Draw Something. Draw Something was huge.
I'm not a huge fan of ISO.
Angry Birds.
Ninja Fruit?
Ninja Fruit, Fruit Ninja, yeah.
Fruit Ninja.
Fruit Ninja, Angry Birds. These smaller games that were made for, 50, 60,000 exploded into multi-million-dollar franchises. But at the same time, an open platform lets someone rip off all of Nintendo's Pokemon artwork and start making a 99-cent app that crashes and does nothing. Or in the case of Android, because I think Android is a better example of an open platform for a phone, for gaming, than iOS is, because iOS has a very stringent review process. You have to submit your work to Apple, including the code, and they check it all, and then if they approve it, it goes up. With Android, you kind of just submit the file, because I've done this. You submit the file that runs the game, they send it to Google. As long as it loads, it pretty much goes up. And you have the case where people are making great games, but you also have the case where people are making apps that get around the store. Like you can, on your Android phone in this room, could download a black market application to start stealing other people's games. Or you could accidentally download a bricker and your phone is useless. Your $400 smartphone is now
Not that smart.
yeah, is now blasting.
Like, one of the things, too, that I thought interesting, this is going off on a tangent.
Yeah, we're going off tangent, let's bring it back.
Is basically, when we go to, developers, right? One of the things is feedback. That's the big thing I think we need to talk about when it comes down to it. Because developers get feedback from us by what we buy, what we don't buy. Like,
From the consumer.
from the consumer. Like Modern Warfare, right? Who's played those games? Who's played the first one?
No, thank you.
Second one.
Second one?
Third one.
Thank you.
Black Ops.
Yeah.
So like less proportionate for the expansions.
So basically I'll put it this way to you guys. Was it the same game for those people who played more than one?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
It's a $60 map pack, right?
Yeah. The thing about like these new Kickstarter games, right, is I always like using something called the mod mentality, right? Like it's a really bad joke, but who here plays Skyrim? I'm assuming everyone. Thank you. Mods. Thank you. Mods are interesting, right? Because one thing you'll notice is about Skyrim, right, is did you follow Oblivion very well?
Yeah.
What mods did you see going through there?
Basically, there's a lot of the same mods that are going through Skyrim now. They basically ported it over, retextured everything.
But you've seen some of like the more basic, like simple mods, right?
Lighting mods mostly, I see.
Yeah, like lighting mods.
They had the crazy stuff like the Bayonetta combat. Somebody took Oblivion and then saw Bayonetta and saw how crazy the combo system in Bayonetta was. And they coded a unique
combat
gameplay engine into the Oblivion engine. So imagine if someone took that, and they were able to do that with just the tools the developer gave them on a game that's already out. Like those skills, and put it into this project. I mean, there are guests at this convention like James who, he funded an entire movie by himself.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. And like 2 years ago, we would never be talking about someone, you know, who's filmed stuff with a handycam being able to fund an entire movie production. And now you have people like funding entire game studios. It's insane. But it's like, what happens, or what do you guys think will happen the first time one of these like falters out when a community invests 150,000 and they get nothing?
People might be doubtful.
You think people might be? So do you guys think that the crowdfunding model is a blip on the radar? Will it go away?
I highly doubt it, because this is a much more direct way of controlling, the consumer controlling what we want to see available for purchase. Like, we're funding ideas as opposed to waiting for some corporate giant to figure out that maybe they want to try something different.
Like,
That's, I know. And there seems to be a lot more open creativity. Obviously, it's a lot of games are bound to fail at this as well, but I don't think that the risk of some people failing is enough of a reason to abandon the model entirely.
Another thing that I thought of was there are other groups using this format as well.
Yes.
There's a group called Kiva that does small microloans for individual businesses around the world as well, and then they return those loans back to the people who made them. And so it's $25 or $50, but it can make a real difference as someone starting a
And
small
you're
business.
loaning money to people in Africa.
Yeah, people
like
trying
that.
to start small businesses anywhere in the world, and you can be specific if you want to donate to women or to men or to people with children. And a lot of there's something like a 95% return on those, so it's increasing a lot of faith in that idea.
Yeah, we kind of zoomed in on games, but you're right. It's used for other forms of media. There's activist. Wow, I'm really getting on it. Activist groups who use not Kickstarter, but Indiegogo a lot for film, to try to send a message. Minority groups and things like that.
Well, look at the oatmeal. They send a message.
Like, are you guys? Do you guys?
That's true with the lawsuit.
Oh,
Well,
that's true. Yeah.
They opened a fundraiser on Indiegogo to raise $20,000, and if they
For
didn't raise $20,000,
They raised like
people wouldn't get the.
200,000?
Yeah, if they didn't raise $20,000, people would get their money back, and it wouldn't go through. If they did raise $20,000, they said they were going to donate it to cancer charities after taking a photo of it
And sending it to the lawyer.
and sending it to the lawyer who threatened to sue them,
Yeah.
just to prove that they could do it.
And
I
a
was
picture
about
of
to
his
say that,
mom
the
being
funny
raped by a
joke,
bear.
Yeah,
No,
funny
a picture of his
joke.
mom coming on to a bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I remember that.
like actually I used to use that site myself, right? Like a funny joke, right? After I heard about that, never again.
So, like, we've talked about software, we've talked about movies, but they're also using it for hardware. So, I think it's I really don't know how to pronounce it, but they're funding an Android-based gaming platform, and they've made $5 million. They've made 5 times, almost 6 times, the amount that they wanted to fund a game console. Obviously, they're not going to have the same resources as a Microsoft or a Sony when it comes to developing a console, because they spend, you know, like $1 billion or so on their consoles. But the idea is that it's Android based, and that once you buy the console for $100, your games are free. But is that sustainable? I mean,
Well, it looks as though they're going to a free-to-play model on their games.
microtransactions.
And if they're an Android model, then your games are whatever you can get from the Android store, even if you don't like the games they offer you.
That's true. It creates a set of standards, which is good, because, you know, if you bought a smartphone 2 years ago, does it play the latest games now? Probably not. Especially with Apple, because they come up with a new phone every year. Right? And a console is supposed to last, well, console generations vary. We're currently in year 7 of our current generation. Like, if they release this and it comes to market, you know, how long until the hardware inside is updated? Android's already on version 4, and most of the phones out there don't use it. Most of the phones are like version 2. So they have things to consider that others don't. And we haven't actually, I'm surprised, we're 30 minutes in and we haven't talked about the perks. When you guys, has anyone here actually ever donated to one of these campaigns? One person. 2 people. Did the perks factor into your donation?
Not especially. I just pretty much threw $10 at something I thought looked interesting.
Which one did you donate to?
was actually donated over to the Penny Arcade one.
Oh, okay, the episode 3, the Penny Arcade episode 3.
Oh no, it's not their game.
Child's Play?
No, it's the one for their site. The Penny Arcade sells out
Oh!
Kickstarter.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
It's basically they're using Kickstarter just to see if they can fund their entire operation just
Interesting.
off
Cool.
instead of off of advertisers. They want to try and fund things from the fans.
And I'll comment on that as someone who owns a website, which is actually, because we had to make it a business just because of the size of the site, it grew exponentially. We launched in May of this past year, and we're already seeing an audience of 40, 50,000 people. It's pretty crazy. I can't tell you why, because there's like, a million voices in the sea, but a lot of, that goes a long way, and unfortunately advertising doesn't pay what it used to. Even though we have an audience, like I have an audience of 50,000 people willing to read our reviews and our previews, you make like 10 cents a day. It's barely enough to keep alive, but Penny Arcade is pretty big, so I can see why they would get behind something like that. But
The last Kickstarter I did would be the Mule Kickstarter that didn't go through.
Oh? So what's the story behind that?
They were doing a updated version of the C64 game Mule.
Was it legal reasons that stopped them? Like you said, it didn't go
no,
through.
they actually had the support of the family of the original programmer.
So did they not make enough money to
They
see
just didn't make enough money on it.
So was everything? So there's an example of one that fizzled out. It's a good example. I haven't actually.
The
heard
one
it
before that was Amanda Palmer,
Okay.
and that one went through the roof.
That one.
With Neil Gaiman, right? What was it, for a CD?
That
A
was,
book?
yeah, she was basically using Kickstarter instead of a record company to fund a new CD.
Yeah. Yeah, and it went crazy. That's where I heard about crowdfunding, was the Amanda Palmer.
Like, you always hear things like games and stuff, right? Like, but that's one thing, like, when I heard you guys talking inside, because I've never think of something like books for kickstarting, right, or CDs, right? Have you guys ever heard of some strange, odd projects for Kickstarters?
I've heard of a lot of artists and writers self-publishing through Kickstarter.
Yeah, a lot of self-publishing is huge now.
I've seen some very interesting robotics projects on Kickstarter.
That's a good example.
Weird Arduino shields that people are putting through Kickstarter because they can afford to make them in volume a lot cheaper than making one or two. There was a really neat one a little while back that I don't think went through for a phased array speaker that would allow you to make it so that someone sitting in front of the computer could hear it, but someone 2 feet behind them couldn't.
Wow, that's cool.
Do you think with the perks they have to be a little more varied? I mean, when I look at a page and look at a project and see if I want to put my money towards that project, some of the perks, like even ones that are hundreds of dollars, they're not that enticing, to be honest. And I find that usually they either have too few perks or just way too many. Like, why would I donate $300 to get a t-shirt?
That's almost counterproductive.
There's a gaming convention that's raising funds, and they have, like, you get access to the thing, but they're the middle section of perks, like before the basic ones, and then before like the sponsor our convention and get your name on the wall. It's like pay $200 for a limited edition T-shirt, pay $350 and get an even more limited edition T-shirt. It's like, wait, what?
Well, I guess there are some people who the bragging rights are that important to.
I guess so. I guess it'll show up on eBay, in a year.
With James's movie, actually, if you donated $200, you put your name in the credits.
Yeah, I saw that. He put your name in the credits.
If you donate $50,000, you become a producer.
Did anyone donate $50,000?
I was going to say, I had my bill all ready to go, and it got rejected,
Really?
unfortunately.
What? People actually donated $50,000?
Did someone...
Did someone actually do
Let's
that?
check. Last I checked,
What?
that didn't happen.
That's
Let's check.
insane.
I think
Well,
his
if you
was...
have that kind of money,
I'm
do
pretty
it.
sure James
Yeah,
I would
is
do
one
it.
of those,
Definitely.
Starting at the ground level
And we
too.
see
Yeah,
Bill Gates
yeah.
in the title credits.
Bill Gates.
Yeah.
No,
It's going to be his name like 20 times. I want all the credit.
They have to extend the song cut just for him.
Yeah.
Bill Gates.
So let's see if anyone donated $50,000.
I can't decide if I'd want my name on there or wouldn't if I donated $50,000.
It depends what you're driving as your car.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So
You could pay 50,000 to keep your
it's
name
not on there
out.
anymore. Yeah, you're right. There used to be like one where it was like donate X, and it was like you're an executive producer. There's also one where if you donated a certain amount and you flew yourself out, he would have you as a walk-on cameo.
Or something like that.
Well, it's fairly common for independent fundraising to offer production credits for substantial donations,
That's very true.
because essentially that's the producer's job is to arrange the funding. If you contribute enough, then you've done the producer's
You've done
job.
your job already.
Well, it's like, the thing I think about too is like, when we make these products, right, is one of the things is you guys follow markets at all, right? You know that if something fails, then the person who gets screwed in something is the backers most of the time, right? By having such a huge base of backers, right, is really when you do these projects, you're just giving money to an idea, right?
But the good thing about that is if a project fails, there's not one or two people that you're going to piss off. The bad part is you're going to piss off 100,000 people.
But not that severely,
$2
too.
to $10, yeah.
Yeah, like, to be honest, like, I walk down the street sometimes and I drop $10, right? And sometimes I walk down the street and pick up $10, right? It happens to everyone, right? Like, for Zombie Playground, I sent, like, them $10, right? Because I'm really behind that idea, because it's basically, like, my dream game, I'm gonna be blunt, right? Because I've always liked that style of game, right? But the thing about it, right, is at the end of the day, if the game fails, doesn't turn out what I really expect it to, I'm not too beaten up by that, right?
It's not going to be the end of your week.
So,
No,
like,
and you supported the industry, you supported the indie people, and that's part of what's intriguing about the whole thing, is giving money to people that you'd like to support.
I think these projects have done a wonderful job of allowing people to influence their project without, giving up their vision. Because it could have been very easy for one of these major projects to go, we want a lot of money. So if you donate 1,000 or 2,000, you can help us with something like map design, and they're not doing that, which is good, because the Zombie Playground one is a perfect example. Anyone who contributes can pitch an idea, and then the developer has this pool that they can draw from, but they're not obligated because you gave them money to do one specific thing. So it's kind of like artistic vision versus what your supporters want. And I guess you see that more tug of war, not with this. This is actually more easier for artists to realize their vision, whereas with corporate backing, once you have corporate backing coming in, then it's they pay this, they stamp the checks, they pay the bills, they call the shots. So it's like handing control back to the people who are actually doing the hard work, and that's cool.
yeah, like that. One of the things too that always bothers me in games, right, is no game nowadays really wants to go past the G rating, right? What is it, T? Like a T? Yeah, T. Right? Like no game wants.
Well, Modern Warfare you get. What I think what you're trying to say is games do get M ratings when it's cartoonish.
Yeah.
So Call of Duty, yes, you're killing 50 people, and I'm not saying that people want their first-person shooters to be super visceral, like super realistic, but it is almost cartoony in a fashion that one person could mow down 150 people. And when I'm hurt, I'm just going to get behind cover, and now I'm okay. Hopefully this model brings some originality to established formulas. That's what I hope.
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in on a lot of the M-rated games I have. It's only because of the violence, and what amounts to violence is people-shaped bags of strawberry jam. Basically, there's no. I don't feel like
Like splashes on your face.
It's like I was GoldenEye. Oh my god.
We were playing GoldenEye the other day. That was an interesting experience because GoldenEye is a game that I have very rose-colored glasses for. I was like 12 when that game came out, and at that time, for the N64, games came out like once every 6 months. You were lucky by the time the console life cycle was over if you had 5 games. Now it's like there's 5 games in 1 week that come out. Does anyone remember last November when you had Assassin's Creed, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Batman was in late October, like Skyrim? That's 5. That's 5 in a month right there. That's 1 a week, right? So back then, you had games. Maybe it's because I was a kid, but it's like, oh, I get 2 games a year. And I love that game. GoldenEye's a good example of a game that's different from what we have now, but it's not very good.
Well, here's the thing: is
Yeah, it was.
GoldenEye was
good.
like one of the best games.
thank you.
For its
for sure.
time, but if you play it now,
If I played it now, I would love it more than COD. That's
I guess
the thing.
maybe we have differing opinions on this.
Like one of my favorite games still is the original Super Smash Brothers Brawl, right?
Yeah.
I boot that up every once in a while and just play.
Originally.
Yeah, I always say
Brawl was the one
Yeah.
that we.
It's just like you guys get the idea. Like, yeah, you get nostalgia about games, right? But like, I guess the point is.
Does this have a point? Does
Yes,
any of this have a point?
Yes, we do have a point.
Welcome to
eventually.
the panel of no points. You can tell we prepared.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with gaming, is that it's always evolving. So, you know, we had these shooters like Doom where, you know, it was fake 3D and you had like all these weapons and you could hold like 10 at once. And then we went to GoldenEye where you had, I think it was, no, I think there was still no weapon wheel there. I think it was still multiple. But things progressed to this, like, now it feels generic. There's an article on Cracked where they have a graphic and it's an image of Killzone 3, Battlefield 3, the Modern Warfare reboot, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And it's the same gun, the same scope, with the text, "Can you tell these apart?"
No.
And I can't do it. I can't do it. They all look the same. Like, it's getting to the point where games are so homogenized now that the guns are the same.
Even the artwork, if you start to look at them, it's all teal and orange.
Yeah.
There's another Cracked article
Maybe
where
there's
they,
some
where they talk about
dust-
teal and orange in
dust in
every
there.
action movie or
The
video game.
soldier walks toward the camera.
I always
the
think,
covers.
yeah.
The covers are always generic.
Always.
That's probably really funny doing this, you know, like gun down here or gun up here, like it's.
You
I
know-
have a friend in the military who said it's nothing like that. if there was a real war game, you would spend 95% of your campaign standing around, walking down barren streets, and you might fire 3 bullets.
You might actually spend, like, if you're lucky, another 20 minutes cleaning the gun when you're done.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
I went down to the Dufferin Armories once, and they were doing one of their simulations using the laser range, where they've got laser-fitted guns that have a CO2 system for recoil, and they were doing exercises where they had like checkpoints, or where they had soldiers bursting into an encampment, and the whole thing was that you were supposed to hold your fire until you had a legal reason to shoot. And very few people can manage to do the checkpoint one and hold their fire until the other guy actually has a gun in his hand. Especially when it could be his wallet with his ID, or it could be a tire iron.
I think that as gamers, we need to start our own Kickstarter fund, and it's going to be Valve. Where is Half-Life 3?
Or at least episode 3.
Episode 3 or Half-Life 3.
It was one of the two.
One of the two, because this is
Ridiculous.
ridiculous.
Throw money at a project that doesn't actually exist
Yeah.
in order to make it happen.
Let's create Black Mesa. That's the answer
That's the other one.
that we need to do.
The Half-Life universe just sucks in sequels. Anything with a 3 in it. So we're not going to see Left 4 Dead 3. We're
No.
not going to see Portal 3. Just goodbye to all those great IPs that Valve created.
You're gonna have to start making 4.
Yeah.
That was the joke. When Left 4 Dead 2 came out, they're going to be like, surprise, Left 4 Dead 4 comes out a week before Left 4 Dead 2, because that game came out like less than a year. It was like 50 weeks. Somebody counted. The funny part about that, and to bring it back to our broader topic about community influence in games, is boycotts on Steam. Specifically Steam, but boycotts in general. With Left 4 Dead 2, you had people who were like, I'm not buying Left 4 Dead 2. And they created groups on Steam where like thousands of people signed up and said, I'm not buying this game, not supporting it. And then the week the game came out, someone went on to the group page, and more than half of them were playing Left 4 Dead 2 in a direct opposition of the boycott. So it's kind of like, does the mass have the right idea? Because with something like this, they can throw money at something that sounds great, and then what happens when the game's mediocre? What happens if Zombie Playground comes out and we all think it's going to be awesome, and then it's a grind fest where you have to put in $100?
What happens if Left 4 Dead 3 comes out and everyone goes out and spends $60 on it,
and it's terrible,
and it sucks?
Same
Or if
thing
it's
that
just
would
a clone
happen.
of 2 with
then it's
a
the
couple
first
of
Valve
very
game
minor
ever
skin
that was
changes.
terrible.
I'd probably cry a bit, to be honest.
I'd lose some faith in humanity, I think. Honestly. I like the idea, or at least the concept, that anyone, even without programming experience, if you're a gamer and have a game idea, can be able to create it. And a lot of people don't know that there are tools out there that can help you do that. There are, I wish I had, oh, I have it on here, but I'm not going to load it up. But there's a development environment that involves no programming that could let you make your own games to iOS, Xbox, and Android. And not a lot of people know about it. And it's things like that that I think need to become more pervasive. I mean, we have this great funding model that gives people with a vision and talent a way to achieve their goals. But we also need a way to engage more people. And I think Microsoft has the right idea with the XNA development kit. You can go online and you can download the source code essentially to Xbox, like how to write an Xbox game. And if you take the time and plug in at it, you can make a vision reality. And I just wonder how many visions there are of people who have these great ideas, don't have enough talent, or don't have enough, I don't want to say drive, but maybe like the art behind them, or the one skill they need to express that could, go gangbusters.
Well, here's the thing about it too is, I do digital artwork quite a bit, right? And personal experience is when people want to start these projects, right, you either don't have an artist, you don't have an animator, or you don't have a programmer, right? So one of the things that is pretty common too in these things, right, is when people are going out, I bet everyone in here has a great game idea, right? Like something you've been thinking about.
Yeah, if you ask somebody, what's your dream game, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
Right? And chances are it's not going to be like anything else out there. Unless they're like, it's like Call of Duty, but then you tell them to go, then you tell them where
we don't have those
HQ
people
is,
at conversations.
But we all have these ideas, we all have genres, I'm sure, that we love that aren't around anymore. I have a friend who's absolutely diehard into adventure games, and when, oh, that doesn't come out till next week, no. But there's a game called, it's like, the greatest adventure game ever, or something like, the title is so generic, it's like, the greatest adventure game ever, because they sent me the copy, and I'm like, what is this? And then it turns out to be this cool, fantasy adventure game, and it's like, man, in the current climate, where games like that are embraced, like Resonance, if Resonance came out 5 years ago, it wouldn't have got the coverage it's got. Nobody would have cared. It's a game where the minimum specs are a computer from 15 years ago. I mean, your microwave can run this game. But people are latching onto it, and when we reviewed it, I think we gave it a 9. Jump ahead. Yeah, we gave it a 9. It's a really good game. And because it's available on an open platform like Steam, it's getting a lot of traction. Even a lot of big outlets are covering it because, people play it once and word of mouth spreads. And without that word of mouth, without that sense of community, something like Kickstarter, something like these bigger projects would never exist. So as gamers, we kind of have this underground culture going on where we can influence each other. It's neat. It's almost viral. One person gets an idea or finds something and then it spreads. And eventually it becomes mainstream. We see that with videos too, viral videos. Mm-hmm. I know this is totally off topic, but it's true. The same with game ideas. One person makes a video and then it explodes.
It's how many of you have played Limbo? That game? How many people has heard how amazing it is? Have you heard any good reviews about it? Have you played it?
I love the death animations. They make me laugh every time.
It is such a beautiful game, and I was told by numerous people to play this game. It's your style game. Play it. And I didn't play it. I kept hearing how good it is for 2 months, and I eventually bought it on Steam, played it, and now I'm telling everybody about it because nobody knows about it.
And how did you find out about it? Did you see a friend
through
playing
word
it
of
on
mouth?
Steam?
Word of mouth. Word of mouth.
Word of mouth is honestly the best messenger.
And Bastion, the game Bastion.
Bastion was cool.
Same
The
thing.
narrator concept in that game was so cool. I wish that guy narrated everything I do in life. He walked up to the panel, sat down. That guy's voice just makes the most mundane things so interesting. That was a cool concept. Did anyone play Journey? Journey.
The Dark Project?
Yeah.
I want to play it. I haven't got around.
You haven't got around to it?
I'm going to get it one day.
Another thing too, going off Limbo, right, is one thing I always remember is we got to play the demo, right? I didn't actually get to play the full game, right? But when I got to play that, like one thing I remembered that was really interesting is, you know, like in most puzzle mystery games like that, like usually the puzzle's like it's easy to figure out. It doesn't take much time at all, right? Like I remember we got stuck on like the first level for the longest time.
Was that with the boat?
Where, yeah, you have to do the boat thing, and we basically, when it turns back, all you have to do is jump up the trees, but you never think about that, right? You see, that's another thing that I think these indie games give, right? Is usually when you make a game, you want, like, who's played Ninja Gaiden here? Who hates Ninja Gaiden here?
Except the third one. The third one was easy.
Yeah. But the thing about it, right, is those games are badass. They don't make games like that anymore, like Goblins and Ghouls, right? Like anyone who's played that game realizes that getting up to the third level, like, whoa, man.
Beat it twice without getting hit or dying.
Yeah, but the thing is, you've got to get really good. Gaming companies don't offer those types of challenges anymore.
But you find them in indie games. There is a game
Finding
on...
Bicycle.
Finding Bicycle is hard. There's a game on Xbox Live called The Hardest Game Ever.
Oh, yeah.
And it's essentially just a rhythm game where you're jumping platforms, but the speed increases and the platforms become smaller and smaller. So by the time you're like 5 minutes in, you're like jumping on toothpicks. And it's like, how the hell did someone do this for like 2 hours? Because they'll show it like in your face, like this is the top score anyone has ever done. It's like 2 or 3 hours. It's like, man, I can't do this for 5 minutes. And it makes you want to sit there and try and over and over. And I think games have kind of lost that, where something would be so hard that seemed out of reach, but not hard enough that you didn't understand how to do it. And now it's like, corridor filled with guys, close your eyes, hold the trigger, move the joystick, you will win.
Like, that always bothered me in the Halo games, right? Like, don't get me wrong, like, the multiplayer is fun, right? I've never been a fan of them, right? But those games were always about finding, like, the big gun and winning, basically, when it came down to it, right? Like, don't get me wrong, there were definitely skill challenges, right? But a lot of games are coming down to, like, the only time you have difficulty is when you're not prepared, right?
Well, yeah. Well, we were talking about difficulty. We were also talking
about indies.
We were talking about microtransactions and how when you're buying 5 minutes, we're going to close up 5 minutes of those. Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about microtransactions and how if you buy better gear, you buy better armor, especially in MMOs, like you're better than everybody else, right? Dungeons and Dragons Online, if you don't buy the better armor or the character classes as you unlock, you sit there and you grind forever.
Yeah.
And we saw this in a $15 game recently. Rainbow Moon for PlayStation Network came out, and my roommate's reviewing it for my website. And I'm like, so Eric, how's the game? It's a $15 game. It's, it's strat RPG. Looks fun. The art's interesting. He's like, yeah, it's great. Until the game prompted me that I didn't have to grind, 20 battles to level up one skill, that I could just spend 99 cents. And like, that's a problem. If you're already investing $15 or $20 in a game, they shouldn't be prompting you to pay to win.
The worst I've seen of that is Dragon Age Origins. When I installed the DLC came out.
Did you buy it used?
No, I bought it new, but I didn't buy the DLC. And in the game, the guy runs up to you and says, I need your help, come save me. And I said, okay. And he said, just spend $5.99 and buy the DLC. And I was like, wait.
I forgot about that it's an option where it tells you.
Yeah, and he literally says $5.99. What,
and you're like, guess I'm not helping you.
Yeah, forget, sorry, buddy.
Speaking of Dragon Age, I had a problem with that too. I had a problem with that.
Yeah, I was so unimpressed.
Because I bought my copy used.
Oh.
And copies new came with a code, like a redeem code. Because EA does that, called Project $10. Unfortunately, with Dragon Age in particular, the Project $10 wasn't just an exclusive suit of armor or one quest. It was a follower companion and like an entire quest line involving how to get that companion. And that companion is referenced all the way through the game. So I played through my origin. I played through like a good few evenings. And I'm like, oh, the Sheldred character is referenced, but I never saw her. What's going on? Log on to Wikipedia. Oh, if I want to pay $15.99, it's like, man, you already got my $60. Well, I guess GameStop got my $60.
That was a huge thing for me too. That was so disappointing. Like, you go to the trophy room and it says you have to pay to get this quest to play through it, to get the whole game. Why didn't you just build that into the price of the game?
And that's part of the problem too. I'm trying to remember, there's another game that did that. Because a lot of developers, the initial, well, for Xbox, 1,000 achievement points. Microsoft used to say, for the initial 1,000 achievement points, none of them could be DLC. So if you have the game on the disc, you don't need an update to like download. You don't need anything. You can play through the game front to back and get all the achievements. And then they got lax. I'm trying to remember the game I played because it was recently. I wish I, because this would make it more
Street Fighter X Tekken? The DLC.
Oh, Street Fighter X Tekken does it too. The DLC's locked to the disc. But this was kind of the reverse. There were achievements on the disc that were tied to DLC you had to pay for.
No way.
So if you're a completionist, if you're like, I want that 1,000 out of 1,000, you had to buy multiple pieces of DLC.
Sadistic.
Capcom.
Manipulative.
Yeah.
Wrong. Just wrong.
Yes.
I do remember.
They like your money.
I do remember one game where there was it was a dungeon adventure type thing, alternate reality, and there was a character in it who was undefeatable unless you had bought the previous game in the series, beat it, and imported the one weapon that could kill it.
But at least that's promoting the same series. It's not like.
Well, that's like you had to buy a whole game and
But
play it
is this
just
an
to get
extra
the one.
boss? Is that like Final Fantasy where there's bosses that are unbeatable unless you find them? Like
No, this is
Ultimate weapon and stuff like that?
a creature that you encounter about halfway through the game.
Oh, that's the
Yeah.
Well, we're out of time, unfortunately. This discussion probably could have continued forever, like some kind of perpetual motion machine.
Is there a Kickstarter for that?
I'm gonna start. So thanks, guys. It was a blast.
Thanks.